of this room. I'm not going to film it. A forest will do. I bet you think you are this thing. Everyone thinks they are, but when we actually stop and look at people's lives, there are very few people actually like this. What am I talking about? Well, it's kindness. When we actually do stop and think about it, are our hearts and our thoughts always that kind? Well, I'm going to be finding random people. Strangers. Don't do this at home, kids. Although, if there are strangers in your home, I don't know, call the police. Anyway, I'm going to be finding some random people. There are 3 questions I'm going to be asking them. What does kindness mean to them? What is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for them? And finally, what is the kindest act they could possibly imagine? Let's see what they say. Guys, I'm filming an assembly for my school. Do you want to be in it? Alright, I'm here with Callum and I'm going to ask him some questions. So what's your name, by the way? Siobhan. Siobhan, wonderful. I'm Josh. I'm here with Eliza. And I'm going to ask her 3 quick questions. Eliza, I've forgotten the question. What is the question? The first question is, what would you say kindness is? What does kindness mean to you?
It's the act of doing something nice just because you care about someone, just putting someone else before you. That's how I think of it.
Yeah.
So I would say it is treating other people as you'd like to be treated yourself, and putting yourself in their shoes. And, yeah, thinking about if I was in that situation, how would I like to be treated?
The first question is, what is kindness to you? What does kindness mean to you?
Kindness to me means putting someone else before yourself.
Wonderful, yeah. I wonder how you would answer that question. What does kindness mean to you? Or how do you define kindness? If you were to describe it and what it looks like, what would you say? Well, I think the answers that Siobhan, Eliza and Callum gave were pretty fantastic. Serving other people, giving of yourself for someone else. That's what it is to be kind. Not to be self-centered, just looking inward, but looking out to others. Now, there are so many ways we can be kind, aren't there? It might be a small thing. Maybe in school it's something like picking up a pencil that someone dropped in class. Or even holding the door open for someone. Or maybe it's a big thing. Maybe it's something like sticking up for someone who's being picked on. Or it's just being there for someone who's on their own. There are so many ways that you and I can be kind and show kindness to others around us. Now, maybe you're thinking, Josh, why are you sat in a tree? Do you just like trees? Well, I do love trees, but the reason I'm in a tree is because showing kindness is a lot like planting a seed. You know, you don't just get a big old tree like this, like that. It comes from the tiniest seed. This always blows my mind. I mean, think of like how big an acorn is. And then that little thing eventually grows into all of this and that and leaves, and it's amazing. Something so small can grow into something so big. That's what your kindness can do for other people. You plant that little act of kindness and you'll be surprised how big it can grow. That's what our theme is for this year's Make a Difference Day. One act of kindness at a time. So what can you do? Actually think about this. What can you do right now? What can you do today that is kind, that can help someone else, that is giving of yourself for someone? I wonder, if I came to your class right now and asked them all what you're like, would they say, yeah, they're a kind person, they're a tender-hearted person? I know that if someone wronged them, they'd be ready to forgive. I wonder, is that you? Even if you think the answer to that would be no, it's not the end. You see, make a difference isn't just about you making a difference for others. The difference might be starting in your own heart. Think about that today. What can you do to start a change? Every Make a Difference Day, we're going to have a theme song that me and some of the amazing Year 8s have recorded. Now, this year's song is called Found by You. And some of the words in that song go like this. With one act of kindness at a time, we can connect what would divide. See the world through heaven's eyes. Make dominoes fall to let love rise. We'll be the spark to light the flame. We'll be the link to forge the chain. It's our chance to redefine what it could mean to change a life. What can you do today to change a life? On to question 2. Alright, second question is, what is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you?
That's a tough question.
Yeah. What is the kindest thing anyone has ever done for you?
I'm actually really lucky because I've had lots of kind things. And kind things to me could be just something that I turn up for work and I'm having a bad day and someone notices it and makes me a nice cup of tea.
Yeah.
Or it could be something like I've injured myself, which I've done quite often, and someone's gone out the way to help me because they've seen I've been hurt.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so one of my friends came and picked me and my family up. None of us could drive. To go and see a relative who was ill. So that was middle of the night. Give him a call.
Oh,
he was
wow.
there straight away.
Wonderful.
So it's the same thing. Put us first before him. So yeah, that was
amazing.
That was
Cool. What's the kindest thing anyone's ever done for you?
It's really difficult to think because there's so many little things that you think, oh, that was kind. But then there's the big things.
Yeah.
I get quite deep now. My mum picked up COVID when she was in hospital at the end of January. The doctor that rang me up to tell me how she was incredibly nice. Explained exactly what her situation was.
Yeah.
How gave me a call to come up. I was living in Devon, to come up and be with her.
Yeah.
So I drove up from Devon, and I didn't know if she'd still be alive by the time I got there. It's a 7-hour journey. But she was, so I went in, and we didn't think at that time we'd be allowed to go in and visit. But they allowed us to go in and one at a time sit with my mum for as long as we wanted.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And was able to sit with her all through that night, pray with her. And the nursing, so she was carried on through that week. She was not quite lucid, but she was still able to speak. And the nursing staff, they were so kind, they were so nice to us. She was in a ward with 6 other ladies who were probably all in a similar situation, close to death. But I think at that time my mum was probably the worst. And then unfortunately, while she was in hospital, she picked up COVID and she got moved on to a COVID ward. And she wasn't responding to treatment. And we thought, well, all she'd been asking for during that week was to be taken home. And we thought, well, then never let us take her home. point where she wasn't responding to treatment and there was nothing more they could do. They did everything they could so that we could get her home within 4 hours. We had a hospital bed at home. The district nurses were set up to come in and visit her, and we were able to look after her at home.
Oh, wonderful.
She passed.
Yeah.
So
Thank you for sharing that. Thank you so much. Thinking about what the three of those people said, especially Siobhan, really brings it home how amazingly important and life-changing kindness can be. Especially after these 2 past crazy years with the virus and restrictions, acts of kindness like that, I feel, have become so much more valuable to people. I wonder how you'd answer that second question. What is the kindest thing that anyone has ever done for you? Now, a few things might come to your mind, maybe. Maybe you think of certain people, certain events, certain circumstances in your past, where someone has been so kind. And you didn't really deserve it. You didn't think that they would do that. And yet they did it. And they were so kind to you. Can you think of something like that? When we think of those times, it warms our hearts, doesn't it? We think of how amazingly kind someone chose to be for us. How incredible. You know, every time we think of things like that, our hearts get warmed and it feels amazing to be valued and loved in that way. I wonder, does anyone think of you in that way? When they answer that question, are you their answer? When they think back at a time where you were so kind and so loving and considerate for them, does anyone think of you like that? And do you give them reason to think of you like that? Now, when I think of this question and I think about kindness, it always reminds me of this incredible story from the Bible. It's about David. You know David, right? The guy who slung his sling and hit Goliath, the big giant, and killed him, David and Goliath. That same David. Now, he was just a shepherd boy, but God had said that he would one day be king of Israel. Now, the current king of Israel was a guy called Saul. He was a wicked, evil king, and he hated David. He even chased David and hunted him down for most of David's life. David spent years on the run from King Saul. But eventually, Saul died in battle, and David was crowned the king. Now, back then, when you were king or queen, one thing you'd have definitely done is killed off any rivals to your throne. If anyone was a threat, anyone was an enemy, you'd get rid of them as soon as you could. Now, one day, King David said to his servants, one servant in particular named Ziba, who used to serve King Saul, he said, "Is there anyone left of Saul's family?" And Ziba said, "Yeah, actually, there is one guy. He's lame in his feet, or paralyzed in his feet, and his name is Mephibosheth." What a cracking name. And Mephibosheth was, as I said, paralyzed in his feet. He was a grandson of King Saul. And David said, "Do you know where he is?" And Ziba said, "Yeah, I know where he is." "Bring him to me," King David said. So Ziba and his men went to collect Mephibosheth and brought him before King David. Now Mephibosheth fell down before the king. Imagine what he was feeling at that point. He would know all the terrible things that his grandfather Saul had done to David. He would know that he'd likely be killed. And Mephibosheth must have felt terrified. He fell before him and said, What do you want with your servant, O king?" And David said, "Do not fear. Have no fear, Mephibosheth, because I'm not going to kill you. Instead, I'm going to adopt you. I'm going to show you a kindness that you've never ever known. I'm going to give you back all of the land that your grandfather, King Saul, once owned. and I'm going to make you like a son of mine. You're going to sit at my table and eat the food that I eat. You're going to be one of mine, in my family. And Mephibosheth was amazed. He was so confused, but excited and astounded that King David would do that for him. And Mephibosheth said, "Who am I that you would look upon me? I'm just a dead dog," is what he said. "I'm just worthless. There's nothing good in me. Why are you giving me such kindness?" And David said, "I'm doing this for you. I'm showing you this kindness because it's the kindness of God." Now, what does David mean by that? Well, keep that in your mind, because it's time for question 3. And finally, as the last question, what is the kindest act you could ever possibly imagine someone else doing for another person?
Yeah, I think it seems people that kind of put other people first before themselves.
Yeah.
Like the doctors on the front line and the nurses and yeah, all those people that look after us.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
And last question
Go on.
is, what is the kindest act that you could ever imagine someone doing for someone else?
Probably something like giving one of your organs to someone like that, really
Okay,
putting
yeah.
yourself out to save someone's life,
Yeah.
which would mean an awful lot to them. But kindness means different things to different people. So I think just being aware of that, what kindness means, 'cause you
Yeah.
can just change someone's day or someone's life by that little act of kindness.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's okay.
That's excellent.
No worries.
What is the kindest possible thing that you could imagine one person doing for someone else?
Kindest possible thing. I'd say it'd be like, I don't know, literally like saving someone's life or something like that. If we're being dramatic, we're going to the highest amount of kindness. It'd be like saving someone's life and risking your own at the same time. So yeah.
Excellent, cool.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you. I'd shake your hand, but COVID and stuff. So
no,
thank you.
yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Anyway, thank you.
You too, thank you.
No problem.
Now, they're really interesting answers. Giving your organ away for someone else, or even going so far as to give your life to save another person. I mean, that's a kind of kindness on a totally different level, right? I wonder how you would answer that question. You know, if you were to ask me those 3 questions, what is kindness to me? What's the kindest thing that anyone has ever done for me? And what's the kindest possible act that I could ever imagine? You know, the 3 answers would be the same thing. I'd answer those questions with what David said. The kindness of God. Even though I'm weak and helpless like Mephibosheth, and even sinful and an enemy of God, He has given me a kindness that is beyond anything you could possibly imagine. You see, we all know this word that the Bible talks about, sin. We all know sin, we know what sinner, but would it shock you if I said that I am a sinner? And even that you are a sinner? You see, when the Bible talks about sin, it kind of means a crime against God. And my sin is so terrible that it deserves punishment from Him. But instead He decided to make a rescue. Jesus came to earth as a man, but He was also God. Jesus willingly gave up His life. He was beaten and bruised and cut. And the wrath and anger and punishment from God that should be mine, Jesus took that bullet for me, so that I can be free and forgiven. God, who should rightly send me to hell, instead pays my debt for me and gives me the free gift of heaven when I trust in Him. that is kindness on another level. That is a kind of hope that surpasses everything. It's the most incredible act of kindness that there has ever been. And in a world of hopelessness, that is a hope that gets you through any storm. I wonder, what is your hope in the midst of this world? You are all so loved, and I'm so proud of each of you. I hope you have a wonderful Make a Difference day, everybody. Enjoy the song, and hope you have a wonderful summer too. Bye for now.